Hey everyone, Elizabeth here. The Last Laugh delivers stories that leave you speechless. If you're here for it, hit subscribe and let's go.
I'm Maya Chin, 32 years old, and for most of my life, my family treated me like I was financially incompetent. It started when I was 16 and chose computer science over business school, the family path that led to Goldman Sachs internships and corner offices. My uncle, Richard Chin, built Chin and Associates Investment Management from the ground up. Started with 3 clients in 1998, grew it to managing $470 million in assets. He was the family success story. The golden child who did everything right. Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every family reunion became the Richard Chin Show. How he closed another major client. How his firm just hired another Ivy League analyst. How he personally managed portfolios for 2 Fortune 500 CEOs. And then there was me. Maya's doing her little computer thing, Mom would say dismissively. Still coding websites? Uncle Richard would ask with barely concealed condescension. I worked as a software engineer at a mid-sized tech company in San Francisco. To my family, that meant I was typing in a cubicle somewhere making decent money, but nothing impressive. Nothing like Uncle Richard's world of hedge funds and investment portfolios. What they didn't know, what I deliberately never told them, was that at age 24, I'd built an algorithmic trading platform. Started with $50,000 of my own savings. Within 18 months, I'd turned it into $3.2 million. By age 26, I'd founded Apex Capital Analytics, a boutique investment firm specializing in AI-driven portfolio management. I kept it quiet. Used a business partner's name as the public face. Operated through LLCs and investment vehicles that couldn't be traced back to me personally. Why the secrecy? Because I'd watched what happened when my cousin Jennifer made her first million in real estate. The family descended like vultures. Loan requests. Investment opportunities. Guilt trips about helping family. Within 2 years she'd lost most of it to their schemes and was too embarrassed to attend family events. I wasn't going to be Jennifer. So I built my empire in silence. And I watched. And I waited. In 2018, Uncle Richard's firm hit a rough patch. The markets were volatile. 3 major clients pulled their money. He was bleeding cash, facing the possibility of laying off half his staff. I knew because my cousin David, Richard's son, complained about it constantly on social media. Dad's so stressed about the firm. Might have to sell the lake house. I saw an opportunity. Through one of my investment vehicles, Redwood Capital Trust, I approached Chin and Associates with an anonymous investment proposal. $50 million in operating capital. No strings attached. Fixed 3% annual return well below market rate. The money would stabilize the firm, allow Richard to weather the storm and position him for the recovery. The only conditions: complete anonymity and a quarterly financial review to ensure the money was being managed responsibly. Richard's managing partner, Thomas Wu, handled the negotiations. I never spoke to Richard directly. Everything went through lawyers and financial intermediaries. Richard took the deal. He had no choice. It was accept anonymous funding or watch his life's work collapse. That was 6 years ago. Over those 6 years, my $50 million investment became the foundation that allowed Chin and Associates to grow from $470 million to $1.2 billion in assets under management. Richard hired 15 new analysts. Opened offices in New York and Singapore. Won industry awards. And at every family gathering he became more insufferable. The key to successful investing, he'd lecture at Thanksgiving dinner, is understanding risk management. Something most people never grasp. He'd look directly at me when he said, "most people." I'd smile politely and pass the cranberry sauce. Meanwhile, my own firm had grown to managing $680 million across 47 clients. I'd been featured in Financial Times under my business partner's name. Built a proprietary AI system that consistently outperformed the S&P 500 by 7 to 12% annually. But to my family, I was still Maya with her little computer job. The breaking point came at the 2024 Chin family reunion in Lake Tahoe. Uncle Richard rented out an entire resort, paid for unknowingly with returns on my investment. 200 family members. 3 days of activities. And Richard positioned himself as the patriarch, the success story everyone should aspire to emulate. On the second night there was a formal dinner. Richard stood up to give a speech about the Chin family legacy of financial excellence. "We Chens understand money," he declared, wine glass raised. "It's in our DNA. We know how to build wealth, how to manage it, how to make it grow." Then he looked around the room. "Of course, not everyone inherits the gift," he continued. "Some of our younger generation have chosen alternative paths." His eyes landed on me. My niece Maya, for instance. She works with computers. Makes a decent salary, I'm sure. But she's never understood the sophisticated world of real finance. Investment strategies, portfolio management, market analysis. These are foreign concepts to her. Polite laughter rippled through the room. My Aunt Linda leaned over. "It's okay, sweetie. Not everyone can be financially savvy like Richard." I smiled. "You're absolutely right." The next morning, the reunion activities included a business success panel, where Richard and 3 other family members shared their professional wisdom. Richard spoke for 40 minutes about his firm's growth, the challenges of managing billion-dollar portfolios, and what separates amateurs from professionals in the investment world. "The amateur thinks investing is about picking stocks," he said. "The professional understands it's about comprehensive strategy, risk analysis, and having the capital backing to make bold moves." Someone asked how he'd funded the firm's expansion. "Strategic capital acquisition," Richard answered smoothly. "I secured investment from a private benefactor who recognized the firm's potential. That's what separates successful entrepreneurs from dreamers, the ability to attract serious money." He said it like he'd done something impressive. Like the money had appeared because of his brilliance, not because I'd thrown him a lifeline when he was drowning. I checked my email during his speech. My CFO had sent the quarterly report. Apex Capital Analytics had just closed a $95 million deal with a tech billionaire's family office. Our assets under management had crossed $720 million. I was managing more money than Uncle Richard. And he had no idea. That afternoon I went for a walk along the lake. My phone rang. Thomas Wu, Richard's managing partner. "Miss Chin," he said. "I hope I'm not interrupting your vacation." "Not at all, Thomas. What's going on?" "I'm calling on behalf of Redwood Capital Trust. It's time for our quarterly review, but I wanted to give you advance notice about something." "I'm listening." "Richard wants to accelerate the firm's expansion. He's talking about opening an office in London, hiring 20 new analysts, and launching a cryptocurrency investment division. And he's asking Redwood to increase the investment from $50 million to $120 million. He thinks the original benefactor will be impressed by the firm's growth and want to invest more." I watched a family of ducks paddle across the lake. "What did you tell him?" "That I'd present the request to the investment committee. But Miss Chin, I need to be honest with you. Richard's becoming reckless. He's making increasingly aggressive moves because he thinks he has unlimited backing. The cryptocurrency division alone could expose the firm to massive losses." "How bad is it?" "If he proceeds with these plans and the crypto market crashes, which many analysts predict, Chin and Associates could lose $200 to $300 million. The firm would survive because of Redwood's backing, but it would be a catastrophic failure of risk management." I made a decision. "Thomas, I need you to do something for me. Prepare a complete analysis of how Redwood's $50 million investment has been utilized over the past 6 years. Every dollar. Every decision. Every return generated." "I can have that ready by Tuesday." "Perfect. And Thomas? Don't mention this conversation to Richard." "Understood." I hung up and walked back toward the resort. The final reunion dinner was that evening. Richard had planned another speech, this one about passing financial wisdom to the next generation. I had a different plan. The dinner was held in the resort's grand ballroom. 200 Chin family members in business casual attire. Richard at the head table holding court like a king. Midway through dinner, Richard stood up again. "I want to talk about financial literacy," he began. "Too many young people today don't understand basic investment principles. They think downloading a stock trading app makes them investors." More laughter. "My niece Maya is a perfect example," he continued, gesturing toward me. "She knows nothing about finance. Complete amateur. She probably thinks a hedge fund is something you plant around your garden." The room erupted in laughter. My cousin David shouted, Maybe she should stick to coding, Uncle Richard. Aunt Linda patted my hand sympathetically. Don't feel bad, dear. We can't all be financial geniuses. I checked my watch. 7:47 p.m. Right on schedule. Richard's phone rang. Loudly. He'd forgotten to silence it. He frowned, glanced at the screen. It's Thomas. I should take this. He knows I'm at the reunion, so it must be important. Take it, someone called out. Richard answered on speakerphone. Thomas, I'm in the middle of the family dinner. What's so urgent? Thomas Wu's voice filled the ballroom. Richard, I apologize for the interruption, but this cannot wait. I just received communication from Redwood Capital Trust. Sir, your anonymous benefactor who's funded the firm for 6 years is. Richard's face went pale. Thomas, not now. But Thomas continued, his voice strained. Sir, they're withdrawing the entire $50 million investment. Effective immediately. And they're demanding an emergency meeting to discuss the firm's unauthorized expansion plans and reckless risk management strategies. The ballroom went silent. Richard's hand shook. What? No, they can't just withdraw. We have a contract. The contract allows withdrawal with 30 days notice for failure to maintain agreed-upon risk parameters. Sir, they're citing your cryptocurrency proposals and the London expansion as evidence of departure from the original investment thesis. My Aunt Linda whispered, What's happening? Richard's face had gone from pale to red. Thomas, who is this benefactor? I need to speak with them directly. I need to explain. I'm forwarding you the documentation now, sir. The benefactor's identity is being disclosed as part of the withdrawal process. Richard's phone buzzed with an incoming email. He opened it, his hands trembling. The blood drained from his face. No, he whispered. This can't be right. He looked up at me. The entire room followed his gaze. Why, his voice cracked. You. I stood up slowly, setting down my napkin. Hello, Uncle Richard. We should probably discuss this privately, but since you made our family business so public, I suppose we can address it here. The room was so quiet I could hear breathing. Richard's phone buzzed again. Another email. He opened it, read it, and his knees buckled. He grabbed the table for support. What is it? My father demanded. Richard's voice was barely audible. The documentation. The financial analysis. Maya's firm. Apex Capital Analytics. He looked at me with something between horror and disbelief. You manage $720 million? You've been running an investment firm since you were 24? You're the benefactor who's been funding my company for 6 years. I walked slowly toward the head table. Every eye in the room followed me. Yes to all of that. I founded Apex Capital Analytics in 2015. We specialize in AI-driven portfolio management. As of this morning, we have $720 million in assets under management across 47 high-net-worth clients. My mother gasped. Maya, is this some kind of joke? No, Mom. In 2018, when Uncle Richard's firm was about to collapse, I invested $50 million through Redwood Capital Trust, one of my investment vehicles. That money saved Chin and Associates. Everything Richard has built over the past 6 years was possible because of my capital backing. I reached the head table and stood across from Richard. The strategic capital acquisition you bragged about this morning? That was me. The private benefactor who recognized your potential? Me. The reason you could hire 15 analysts, open new offices and manage $1 billion? Me. Richard's managing partner's voice came through the phone, which was still on speaker. Richard, I need to clarify something for the room. Without Redwood's $50 million, Chin and Associates would have been bankrupt by 2019. Ms. Chen's investment provided 100% of the operating capital during the crisis and approximately 60% of the expansion funding since then. Aunt Linda stood up. This is ridiculous. Maya, if this were true, we would have known. You would have told us. I turned to face her. Would I? What happened to Jennifer when she made money? The whole family treated her like an ATM. Loan requests. Investment opportunities. Guilt trips. She lost everything. That was different, my father protested weakly. No, Dad. It wasn't. I watched what this family does to anyone who succeeds. So I built my success quietly. I used different business structures, operated through partners and kept my name off everything public. My cousin David, Richard's son, stood up. Prove it. Show us proof. I pulled out my phone and connected it to the ballroom's presentation screen. Within seconds, my Bloomberg terminal was displayed for everyone to see. Apex Capital Analytics. $720 million AIM. 47 active clients. Returns averaging 9.3% above S&P 500 over 6 years. Then I pulled up Redwood Capital Trust's complete investment documentation for Chin and Associates. Every wire transfer. Every quarterly report. Every dollar that had flowed from my accounts to Richard's firm. The room stared in stunned silence. Richard collapsed into his chair. Why, he whispered. Why help me if you think so little of us? I don't think little of you, Uncle Richard. I think you're brilliant at what you do. Your firm needed capital and I had capital to provide. It was a sound investment. My $50 million generated a 3% annual return. $1.5 million per year, $9 million total. Not spectacular but safe and steady. I paused. But you're right about one thing. I am withdrawing the investment. Not because the firm is failing, but because you've lost sight of the risk management principles you lectured about this morning. Thomas Wu informed me that you want to invest heavily in cryptocurrency and expand into markets you don't understand. That's reckless. Richard's face crumpled. The withdrawal will destroy the firm. We're leveraged on that capital. If you pull out, you'll have to sell the Singapore office, I said calmly. Scale back the London plans. Reduce staff by about 30%. Return to managing $700 million instead of pushing toward $2 billion. In other words, you'll have to run a sustainable business instead of an empire built on my money. Thomas Wu's voice came through the phone again. Richard, I should mention, Ms. Chen's withdrawal terms are actually quite generous. She's giving 90 days notice instead of 30, and she's waiving any penalties for early contract termination. It could have been much worse. My mother stood up, tears in her eyes. Maya, how could you hide this from us? We're family. I looked at her steadily. Mom, 3 hours ago, you apologized to me because I'm not financially savvy like Richard. Yesterday you introduced me to your friends as our daughter who does computer work. Last Christmas, you asked if I'd finally consider going back to school for an MBA so I could understand business. She had no response. I turned back to Richard. You spent 6 years lecturing me about finance while managing my money. You built your reputation on my capital. And tonight, you called me a complete amateur who knows nothing about finance in front of 200 people. Richard's eyes were wet. I didn't know. No, you didn't know. Because you never asked. You never wondered if there might be more to my life than what you assumed. You just decided I was incompetent and treated me accordingly. I walked back to my seat and picked up my purse. The withdrawal paperwork will be processed on Monday. Thomas has all the details. You'll have 90 days to restructure the firm's finances. I headed toward the ballroom exit. Maya, wait. It was my father. We should talk about this. As a family. I stopped and turned around. We're talking about it, Dad. Right now. In front of everyone. Just like Uncle Richard talked about my incompetence in front of everyone. The difference is everything I'm saying is true. I left the reunion that night. Drove back to San Francisco. Spent Sunday reviewing the withdrawal documentation with my legal team. By Monday morning the family group chat was exploding. 47 unread messages. Most from Richard and his immediate family, ranging from apologetic to angry to desperate. Some from other relatives, confused and asking for clarification. A few from my parents, hurt and demanding we talk. I didn't respond to any of them. Tuesday afternoon Thomas Wu called. Miss Chin, the withdrawal is being processed. Richard wants me to ask if there's any possibility of negotiating a partial retention of the investment. No. He's willing to give you a seat on the board. Public recognition of your contribution. Whatever you want. Thomas, I don't want recognition from Richard. I want him to run a responsible firm. If he can't do that without my money propping him up, then the firm deserves to contract. Understood. For what it's worth, I think you're making the right call. Richard's gotten reckless. I know. That's why I'm pulling out. Wednesday my mother showed up at my office. My assistant tried to stop her but Mom pushed through. She stood in my office doorway looking small and tired. Maya, please. We need to talk. I gestured to a chair. She sat down. Your uncle is devastated, she began. Good. Why, Mom, he spent 6 years humiliating me. Every holiday. Every family event. He treated me like I was stupid. And you all went along with it. We didn't know. You didn't want to know. It was easier to believe I was the family disappointment. The one who chose the wrong path. That made Richard's success more impressive by comparison. He was crying now. What do you want from us? Nothing, Mom. I don't want anything. I'm not asking for apologies or recognition. I'm just removing my financial support from someone who demonstrated he doesn't deserve it. He might lose everything. No, he won't. Thomas Wu is excellent. The firm's client base is strong. Richard will survive. He'll just be smaller. More humble. Maybe that's what he needs. Friday afternoon, I received an email from Richard himself. Maya, I've spent the past 4 days reviewing everything Thomas showed me about your firm. You've built something extraordinary. I was wrong about you. Completely, utterly wrong. I'm not asking you to reconsider the withdrawal. I understand why you're doing it, and Thomas agrees it's the right move for both of us. But I need you to know that I'm sorry. Not just for the reunion, but for 6 years of dismissive comments. 6 years of treating you like you were less than. 6 years of being too arrogant to see what was right in front of me. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know. Richard. I read the email 3 times. Then I filed it away and went back to work. 3 months later, Chin and Associates completed its restructuring. Richard sold the Singapore office, cancelled the London expansion, and reduced staff by 28%. The firm's assets under management dropped to $680 million. But it survived. Thomas Wu called to give me the update. We're stable. Leaner but stable. Richard's actually doing better work now. More focused. Less ego-driven. Good. He asks about you sometimes. Wants to know if you'd consider having coffee. Not yet. Understood. My own firm crossed $800 million in assets under management. We hired 6 new analysts. Opened an office in Boston. I finally put my own name on the door as CEO. The Financial Times did a feature. Bloomberg covered our AI platform. Forbes mentioned us in their top investment firms to watch list. My parents sent flowers with a card. Congratulations. We're proud of you. We're sorry it took us so long to see it. I put the flowers in my office and the card in my desk drawer. 6 months after the reunion, I received another email from Richard. Maya. Chin and Associates just closed the best quarter we've had in 3 years. We're managing $695 million now, growing slowly and sustainably. Thomas says we're healthier than we've ever been. I wanted to thank you. Not just for the 6 years of funding, but for the wake-up call. I was building an empire on someone else's foundation while telling myself I was a genius. You were right to pull out. I know I don't deserve another chance with you. But if you're ever willing to grab coffee and talk, not about business, just as family, I'd really like that. Your uncle, Richard. I stared at that email for a long time. Finally, I replied. Richard, coffee sounds fine. How's next Tuesday at 2 p.m.? There's a place near my office. Maya. We met on Tuesday. Sat across from each other at a small cafe in downtown San Francisco. Richard looked older. Tired. Humbler. Thank you for meeting me, he said. You're welcome. We talked for 2 hours. Not about business at first. About family. About how the Chens always measured worth by financial success. About how that pressure had shaped both of us. Me into hiding, him into arrogance. I'm trying to be different, Richard said. With David, with the younger cousins. Actually asking about their lives instead of assuming I know everything. That's good. Thomas told me your firm crossed $800 million. That's incredible, Maya. Thank you. He hesitated. I know this is probably too much to ask, but would you ever consider us working together? Not with me in charge, but as equals. Your AI systems, my traditional analysis. It could be powerful. I smiled. Uncle Richard. I think we both work better independently. But I appreciate the offer. He nodded, accepting it. Fair enough. As we stood to leave, he said one more thing. For what it's worth, you were right. About everything. I knew nothing about finance compared to you. I just couldn't see it. You knew plenty about finance, Richard. You just didn't know about humility. We shook hands. Parted ways. I walked back to my office where my team was preparing for a meeting with a new client. A tech founder worth $2.3 billion who wanted our AI platform to manage his entire portfolio. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Richard said coffee went well. Thank you for giving him a chance. We're all trying to do better. I typed back, I know, Mom. I'm trying to. Because that's the thing about family. They can hurt you worse than anyone. They can dismiss you, belittle you, treat you like you're less than. But if they're willing to change, really change, maybe there's something worth saving. I wasn't ready to let Uncle Richard back into my financial life. Maybe I never would be. But I was willing to let him try to be better. And sometimes that's enough.